In the annals of cinematic history, some films are born from meticulous planning, visionary genius, and flawless execution. They're precision-engineered machines where every component works in perfect harmony. And then, there are films like 1959's Journey to the Center of the Earth. This isn't a story of precision, this is a story of absolute chaos, a perfect storm of backstage drama, bizarre commercial compromises, and sheer inexplicable luck. While other science fiction films of the era gazed upward, obsessed with outer space, 20th Century Fox made the peculiar decision to look down. They chose to adapt a Jules Verne novel that was already outdated, using cumbersome technology and casting actors who spent half their time at each other's throats. Yet somehow, despite every obstacle and every nonsensical choice, Journey to the Center of the Earth didn't just get made, it became an enduring, beloved classic. This is the story of the accidental miracle, the blockbuster built on pure chance. We're heading underground to excavate the 15 bizarre facts that prove how this cinematic adventure nearly imploded from within. Number 1. Our first piece of evidence in this film's chaotic production isn't a monster or a star, it's a duck. Gertrude, the feathered companion to the stoic Icelandic guide Hans, was originally conceived as a throwaway gag. The script intended simple comic relief. The set had other plans, transforming her into a feathered tyrant who ruled the production. The production team sourced several ducks to play the role, rotating them for different scenes. This proved to be a logistical nightmare. And these weren't trained animal actors, they were farm animals thrust under searing studio lights. The ducks would quack loudly during emotional takes, freeze and refuse to waddle on cue, or peck aggressively at cast members. The heat made them unpredictable liabilities. Pat Boone later joked that Gertrude had better billing than the human stars, claiming the crew treated the bird like fragile Hollywood royalty just to coax one usable performance. Yet this chaos actually worked. Gertrude's unpredictable antics became a bizarrely charming anchor for the film, a mascot for the production itself, adorable, unmanageable, and perfectly symbolic of the entire accidental journey. In a film boasting giant monsters and earthquakes, the show was stolen by a temperamental duck. Number 2. When 20th Century Fox signed Pat Boone, they weren't just hiring an actor, they were hiring a phenomenon. Boone was a pop sensation whose name guaranteed ticket sales. In a move virtually unheard of in 1959, Boone's team negotiated an unusual deal. They bypassed the traditional upfront paycheck for a smaller salary in exchange for a significant percentage of the film's profits. This was an enormous gamble. If the film tanked, and many Fox epics were, Boone would walk away with almost nothing. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Journey became a colossal blockbuster, and Boone's percentage deal earned him a fortune far exceeding any salary the studio would have offered. But this came with a creative cost. Boone's contract stipulated the film must include songs for him to perform. The studio envisioned a perfect crossover, an adventure epic that was also a musical. When shown to test audiences, the reaction was brutal. Viewers laughed derisively when the high-stakes adventure suddenly stopped for a pop ballad. In a panic, executives sliced almost every musical number from the final cut. Boone got his payday but lost his music. He later quipped bitterly that they had muzzled the singer and kept the duck. Number 3. The role of Professor Lindenbrook required a specific blend of intellectual arrogance, commanding presence, and undeniable charm. Before James Mason embodied that role, the studio wanted Clifton Webb. Webb, known for his razor-sharp persona in films like Laura, had the intellectual arrogance on paper, but he lacked the rugged stamina the role demanded. Just as pre-production solidified with sets already under construction, now Webb was forced to withdraw due to serious illness. This sent the studio into full-blown panic. A massive production now had no leading man. At the 11th hour, they secured James Mason. Mason, fresh off Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, was initially hesitant, finding the script too fanciful, but his presence saved the film. Where Webb's performance might have been cold and distant, Mason brought crucial warmth and subtle humor. He grounded the fantastical story, giving the movie its heart. What began as a catastrophic casting crisis turned into the masterstroke that anchored the entire production. Number 4. In 1959, a director obsessed with authenticity for a fantasy film was dangerous. While audiences might assume the film would be built on comfortable sound stages, Director Henry Levin was determined to capture genuine peril. He dragged his cast and crew deep into the earth, shooting key sequences in actual dangerous cave systems, primarily Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. The conditions were appalling. The spaces were damp, claustrophobic, and narrow, with limited fresh air. Levin then introduced high-powered studio lights. The intense heat mixed with natural humidity, turning the caves into a subterranean sauna. Makeup melted within minutes. Cameras constantly jammed, actors fainted from heat and poor air quality. At one point, a heavy lighting rig nearly collapsed, missing a crew member by inches. James Mason reportedly refused to leave until each day's shots were complete, even as crew members begged him to take breaks. The irony is this obsession with realism paid off magnificently. The raw, claustrophobic dread you see on screen isn't just acting, it's genuine exhaustion, sweat, and palpable fear of a cast and crew pushed to their limits, buried alive beneath Hollywood's ambition. Number 5. How does a 1950s studio create prehistoric monsters on a budget? Before sophisticated animatronics, Hollywood relied on a bizarre trick. They dressed up real animals. For the terrifying Dimetrodons, the production imported large iguanas from South America. Then the effects department was given the surreal task of turning these reptiles into dinosaurs, gluing rubber fins, horns, and extra scales onto their backs. This process was primitive and controversial. The teams applied latex and paint directly to the reptiles, which combined with blistering studio lights made the iguanas restless, uncomfortable, and aggressive. At several points, the monsters escaped, scrambling into studio rafters and halting the entire production until recaptured. Pat Boone joked these iguanas were the cheapest and hardest working actors on set. While modern audiences find the effect quaint, the technique gave scenes an uncanny edge. The monsters' blinking eyes and real movements made them feel strangely alive in a way no prop could. It was low-tech, absurd, and arguably cruel, but proof that Hollywood could make you believe the impossible was crawling toward you. Number 6. Pat Boone's contract had a cascading effect on the film's creative direction. Because the studio was contractually obligated to let him sing, Journey to the Center of the Earth was destined to be a full-blown musical adventure. Early drafts were peppered with original songs for Boone to perform, both on the surface and deep underground. The studio bet on a crossover hit that would spawn a chart-topping soundtrack, but when shown to test audiences, the reaction wasn't adoration, it was confusion and ridicule. Audiences found the sudden breaks for pop ballads ludicrous. The tonal whiplash was unbearable. The studio made a ruthless decision. They scrapped almost all of Boone's songs to save the film's tone. Only one brief melody, "My Heart's in the Highlands," remains near the start. Boone was reportedly unhappy, later quipping it felt like they'd muzzled the singer and kept the damn duck. Ironically, this censorship was another accidental blessing. By cutting the music, the studio saved the movie's suspense. What was intended as a singing showcase was forced to become what it should have been, a straight-faced, timeless adventure. Number 7. The dramatic tension depicted underground wasn't limited to the script, it was vividly real behind the scenes. The set became a battlefield for a quiet war between James Mason and Arlene Dahl, who played the resilient Carla. Dahl, known for her sharp intelligence and fiery personality, refused to be intimidated by Mason's reputation. Mason was a consummate perfectionist who loathed distractions once cameras rolled. Their personalities clashed immediately. According to set reports, disagreements began over line changes, but escalated into a cold war of biting sarcasm and eye-rolling. Crew members recounted moments of subtle sabotage. Dahl would allegedly upstage Mason during dialogue scenes, shifting to catch better light or blocking his angle from camera. These were professional battles only seasoned actors would notice. Director Henry Levin attempted to mediate, but both stars were too proud to back down. Ironically, this real animosity translated into powerful on-screen chemistry. The friction between their characters felt completely authentic because it genuinely was. What was a nightmare for the production team gave the film a dynamic, electric edge. Number 8. By the late 1950s, 20th Century Fox was in dire straits, hemorrhaging money from several expensive productions that flopped spectacularly. The studio's future was uncertain. Journey to the Center of the Earth wasn't seen as a guaranteed hit. It was viewed as one last desperate risky bet. It was an expensive, effects-heavy fantasy film greenlit when the sci-fi boom was fading. Executives were terrified the movie would be another financial sinkhole, but against all odds, the accidental miracle occurred. Journey became a box office triumph. Audiences flocked to see it, word of mouth was electric, and even critics praised its stunning visuals and imaginative scope. The film earned several times its budget and landed 4 Academy Award nominations. This influx of cash and credibility gave Fox a desperately needed shot in the arm, stabilizing the studio long enough to launch its next wave of hits, including Cleopatra and The Sound of Music. In perfect narrative symmetry, while the film's heroes were desperately digging their way out from underground, the movie itself was allowing 20th Century Fox to climb out of its own deep financial hole. Number 9. The film's explosive finale, which sees the explorers blasted out of a volcano, stands as one of the most iconic sequences in 1950s cinema. On screen, it looks like pure fiery fantasy. Behind the scenes, it was a technical nightmare pushing the limits of practical effects. The production couldn't use real lava. To simulate the violent ascent, effects artists built a massive rotating vertical tunnel lined with painted rock facades, then filled it with boiling colored sludge, often oatmeal-based. Thick smoke, and lightweight debris. High-pressure air cannons blasted through this concoction to simulate the eruption. The actors were placed directly into this hazardous environment, strapped into unforgiving rigs, caked in mud and glycerin, covered with fake embers. The sequence wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. During one intense take, Pat Boone's harness actually snapped, sending him crashing onto the set floor. Thankfully, he avoided serious injury, but later remarked it was the one time he thought he might actually meet his end inside a volcano. All that chaos and risk paid off. The eruption sequence was a visual marvel, earning the film an Oscar nomination for Best Special Effects. It was a fiery reminder that before digital magic, cinematic spectacle was forged from smoke, sweat, and a terrifying amount of controlled danger. Number 10. Of all the adventurers in the film, the most enigmatic is Hans, the quiet Icelandic guide, a man of towering strength and near total silence, defined more by presence than words. This wasn't a deliberate writing choice. It was a casting shortcut that accidentally created an icon. Actor Peter Ronson wasn't really an actor at all. He was a real-life Icelandic athlete and engineer living in Los Angeles. The studio hired him for his look and nationality, not dramatic training. The problem quickly became apparent. Ronson spoke extremely limited English. As production ramped up, it became clear he couldn't deliver pages of dialogue. The solution? They cut his lines, almost all of them. Hans's dialogue was replaced with stoic nods, simple gestures, and most importantly, his unforgettable duck companion, Gertrude. The duck was elevated from prop to Hans's primary emotional translator. Gertrude would quack in alarm when Hans remained calm, effectively speaking for him. This forced solution, born from a casting limitation, ironically made Hans one of the film's most memorable characters. He felt genuinely real, not like a polished Hollywood caricature, but a truly stoic, timeless explorer. It was another brilliant accident, proving that sometimes less dialogue means more magic. Number 11. When the explorers are ambushed by the Dimetrodons, those iguanas in costumes, most 1959 viewers saw it as a cheap but effective monster thrill. But beneath the rubber fins, director Henry Levin reportedly intended deeper symbolic meaning. The attack wasn't just a physical threat, it was designed to represent mankind's primal fear of regression, a visual metaphor for the idea that beneath our thin veneer of civilization, something ancient and reptilian still lurks within us. The scene's construction reinforces this theme. As the creatures emerge from deep shadows, the explorers' torches, their symbols of science and light, begin to flicker and fail. They're left swallowed by darkness, a symbolic descent into a prehistoric past. This is why the creatures are filmed moving slowly, almost hypnotically. They're presented less as hungry predators and more as walking ghosts of evolution, an ancient memory come to life. Critics at the time dismissed the scene as simple, schlocky entertainment, but film scholars have since highlighted it as one of the most psychologically complex sequences in 1950s adventure cinema. Underneath the spectacle, the film wasn't just showing monsters from below, it was hinting at the monsters within. Number 12. The film's very identity was the result of a last-minute marketing decision. The original script was far more faithful to Jules Verne's novel. It didn't begin in Edinburgh. It began in Hamburg, Germany with a German professor. However, nervous Fox executives feared a distinctly foreign setting like Hamburg might alienate American audiences. In a decision driven purely by marketing, the story was completely reworked. The setting moved to Scotland. Out went the German professor. In came Professor Lindenbrook of Edinburgh University. This single change triggered a domino effect. Writers scrambled to rebuild character dynamics and rewrite dialogue to reflect the new geography and British culture. Set designers scrapped Hamburg plans and redesigned opening locations for a Gothic Victorian flavor. The studio believed a British setting would be more palatable to Americans and feel more prestigious to Europeans. Ironically, this cynical marketing-driven rewrite gave the movie its unique tone. The foggy, academic, misty atmosphere of the film's opening act, a blend of Victorian adventure and Gothic science fiction, became one of its defining features. What began as a calculated marketing move accidentally became core to the movie's enduring magic. Number 13. In 1959, visual effects was synonymous with artistry and illusion, an art form built on smoke, mirrors, and raw creativity. Journey to the Center of the Earth pushed this art form to its absolute limit, resulting in 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Special Effects. What audiences perceived as vast underground worlds were actually an ingenious cocktail of miniatures, matte paintings, and forced perspective tricks designed to fool the eye. Artists built miniature caverns not from rock, but from salt, spun glass, and painted aluminum foil. These miniatures were seamlessly combined with projected footage of actors to make tunnels appear to stretch for miles. The grand subterranean waterfalls weren't water, they were dyed sand poured upside down and reversed during editing. The volcanic debris was shredded cork shot at high speed from air cannons. Even the iconic glowing lava was just a chemical cocktail bubbling under intense orange lights. The illusion was so total that audiences genuinely believed the studio had somehow filmed inside real glowing caves or near-active volcanoes. This blend of practical artistry and ingenuity makes the film timeless, a stunning reminder that before digital effects, Hollywood could conjure entire worlds from imagination alone. Number 14. While the film is pure fantasy, it was born from a kernel of 19th century scientific debate. In Jules Verne's time, the concept of a hollow Earth wasn't just pulp fiction, it was a genuine, if fringe, scientific theory. Geologists and astronomers with limited data on the planet's interior genuinely debated what lay beneath the crust. Some believed in vast undiscovered caverns, perhaps even subterranean oceans or massive air pockets. Verne, a master of speculative fiction, grabbed hold of that scientific uncertainty as the foundation for his story. By 1959, these theories had been thoroughly debunked. However, the filmmakers were keen to ground their fantasy in a semblance of realism. They consulted with contemporary geologists to design believable cave systems and based their rock formations on data from real Icelandic volcanoes. The details in the film, malfunctioning magnetic compasses, giant crystal caverns, a vast subterranean ocean, were all loosely modeled on actual geological phenomena discussed in scientific journals of that era. This blend of real science and cinematic imagination made the film hit differently. It wasn't just pure escapism, it whispered a tantalizing "what if" to a generation living through the dawn of the space age. The idea that Earth itself might still be hiding profound secrets felt eerily, thrillingly possible. Number 15. When Journey to the Center of the Earth premiered in December 1959, it didn't just entertain, it fundamentally redefined the adventure genre. Its potent mixture of cutting-edge science, high fantasy, and pure visual spectacle created a revolutionary blueprint for blockbuster entertainment. It opened the door for decades of subterranean thrillers and exploration epics. Without its success, we likely wouldn't have films like The Time Machine, The Core, or even the archaeological wonder in Spielberg's Indiana Jones films. The movie proved to studios that audiences craved more than just aliens and rockets. They were hungry for the mysteries of their own planet. The formula it established, a team of brave explorers, a lost world, and ancient dangers lurking beneath the surface, was borrowed, copied, and rebooted for generations. Even Disney's 2008 remake owes its existence to the spark ignited by this 1959 classic. More than 65 years later, It stands as a testament to practical filmmaking. It's a film that turned geology into mythology and reminded audiences that the greatest discoveries might not be in the stars, but right beneath our feet. This film wasn't just another studio adventure. It was lightning trapped in a cavern, a perfect storm of bold ideas, last-minute miracles, and bizarre on-set chaos that somehow fused into pure, enduring movie magic. It endures not because of rubber-suited monsters or dated effects, but because it captures the eternal, thrilling feeling of discovery itself, that sense of wonder that never ages.